Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and in this episode we'll be taking a look at making an ambient track in the style of Brian Eno. Now first of all, I just want to mention that I don't think this is necessarily the greatest representation of what a typical Eno track would sound like. I think there's maybe a bit too much going on, but the reason for that is I wanted to give you quite a few different examples of different techniques and process you could use whilst making your own songs. I know that Brian Eno takes sometimes a more mathematical and calculated approach to creating music in regard to what notes he chooses and where he places them in the song. And I didn't really want to cover this in the video. I kind of just wanted to keep it more conventional and straightforward. But if you want to find out more on that sort of stuff, I know there's a whole bunch of stuff on YouTube where he goes into it himself, if you want to learn more about that. But anyway, let's get into it, and I'll show you what I've got here. So we'll just begin by taking a look at this farty sounding bass over here. And to get that sound, I just used a sample called Brass Section, which you can find over here in FL Studio. And that's just plain notes a few octaves down the center key. So the sample begins here and then is looped around here so you can have long sustained notes. This is the ADSR, so just a bit of attack, quite a long decay, and then just a bit of release. And the only processing I had in that was a bit of EQ, just to roll off quite a lot of the highs and mids. And I'll just show you how that sounds without the EQ. So it's quite in your face, which you don't really want. This is the other bass. It's just a walking bass kind of rhythm. And again, that's another sample. Bass pick kind of sound. And that was from over here. It's one of those ones, I can't remember which. And then I just had quite a lot of EQ on that as well, just so it didn't clash with the other. So together they sound like this. And that's it for the bass. So now we'll take a look at the many pad sounds, beginning with this one here. So this one I made myself, and I'll quickly show you how I did that. So I started off with this vocal sample here. That sounds like this. And I just wanted that one continuous note. So take this bit here, and if you hit Control L, that will make a loop. And then you can just drag it using this button here into your sampler. And then once you got it in there, you can adjust the volume envelope. So just to smooth it out, it has quite a bit of attack, some decay, and a bit of release. And you also need to tune it if it's not playing a C5 note, otherwise it'll be out of tune with the rest of your song. And to do that, you just pull up an EQ, and using one of these parametric EQs, find 440 Hz, which is standard tuning for an A4 note. So then if you go back to your pads, and then just play an A4 note, you can see here it's resonating just on the right point there. You can put boost to help you hear it. But it will probably be off if it's an untuned sample. In which case you can just adjust this pitch knob until you got it right. And that's how you do it. Pretty easy. So back to the sound. And I'll just show you some of the processing that I had going on there. So the first was a chorus. That added a bit of a stereo width into the sound. It's without. Then over on this gross beat, it was just one of these presets here. And I'll just play that and accentuate it a bit just so you can hear exactly what it does. Basically just chops the sound up a bit. And that was just to make it a bit more interesting, rhythmical. And And then had a ping pong delay, just to add more stereo image to the sound. An EQ taking out the frequencies we didn't want. And then reverb just to smooth out the sound a bit and give it more space. And then I introduced that with a low pass filter over here. And you'll notice none of the sounds in the song comes in too abruptly. Everything's kind of blended together quite smoothly, and that just helps with the liquidity and flow of the track. Especially with this ambient genre, you don't want anything like too in your face. So that's what I did there. Now the next pad is this one here. And this is just a free plugin from Spitfire Audio called Choir. It's just a Choir sample bank. It sounds alright. And on this is just a free plugin that pans the sounds left and right, and you can set LFOs. That was just a lazy way of automating the pan. And on that I had a shimmer reverb with the shift pitched up an octave, just to add more harmonic content into the high end. And I'll just demonstrate what that does and how it sounds. And if I take it off, so it just adds more space into the sound. So for the rest of these pad sounds, I basically did the same process. I just sampled loads of different instruments, as each one has its own unique characteristics and harmonic content going on, and basically applied the same effects to each one. So I'd start off by just sampling a note. If I had the VST, like if it was a piano or strings, I'd just play a C note, and that way I knew that it would be in tune. If not, then I could just tune it like the way that I did before. And then just messed around with adding a whole bunch of different effects. So if I wanted to add movement or modulation into the pitch and sound of the sample, then I would usually add flanger, chorus, or phaser, and they're all quite good for that. If you want to add more stereo width, reverb will add a bit of that naturally, but also delay is a good one for that, or you can just pan it left and right, or as before I just had it moving slowly left and right with automation. That's a good way to add movement into the track. And doing it this way, you can't really go wrong, because if you don't have a specific sound that you're after right from the start, then you can end up with these really unique sounds that you just get to completely unintentionally that might sound really good. And it's just a fun way to make music and to mess around, and yeah, just end up with these unique sounds that you wouldn't get any other way. For me, I much prefer it because I'm not very good at synthesis. Having this approach to music is it just makes it more creative and fun, really. And sometimes you can end up with really nice, interesting sounding stuff, and sometimes it just sounds like a big bag of smelly dicks. For me, it's just a fun approach to creating sounds. So I just wanted to explain that quickly, because the rest of these pad sounds, the fundamentals are all the same. The only reason I added quite a few is just to build up the sound and to show you the different stuff you could achieve. So this is the piano pad. And to that I just added distortion, flanger, EQ, reverb, and that's the panner again, so without the effects. And width. Next one was a guitar that I sampled. And on that one I had this tape emulation, and I'll just show you what that did. I was mainly using this this section here, which is true. And that just breaks it up in a sort of static way, and then had a quite heavy bandpass EQ on that. Next one was a string that I sampled. So same technique as before, just started off with the sample, added some reverb, flanger, that gives it the sort of squelchy, weird sound to it. Kind of psychedelic. Next one, this was actually from a VST, again from Spitfire Audio, called Synth Pads, and that was just one of the presets. And that actually sounds quite nice without any effects on it at all. And I basically just added this gate. So now I'll just show you some of the drones that I made. The process that I had for creating these was exactly the same as it was with the pads, except the idea was that they were just going to be through notes for the whole song. So a lot more gradual, and again with this idea that they would evolve over time. So the first one is this brass drone, and that's just using the same sample as I did for the bass. This is how it sounds without any effects. And then the first one was just from this growth beat, and here it just chops up the sound a bit. Just a little amount, and then distortion to bring up the level, and then reverb, and this panda sound, and then I used an LFO here, and just take that down a bit. That was just to fluctuate the frequencies a little, and to do that you just I'll just do it from scratch. So just change the speed, so that would be 4 notes, and then that's the amount that the filter opens up. You could change it to like a sawtooth or a triangle. And if you turn the amount down, you can hear it just has a more subtle effects on it. And that was that. Now take a look at this one. So this one actually used the 3x oscillator, and that was just playing a sine wave. So without the effects, just very simple, and then this makes it sound a bit like a Morse code. Bit reverb, more reverb, and another reverb that I didn't use, and then just EQ. And then the last one here, this nothing's actually playing this sound, so I'll just show you how I made it. So I started off with this vinyl plugin, which is free to download. I'll chuck it in the description if you want it, it's pretty good. And this is just playing, this is how it sounds. So you can add these like scratch and dust effects, and then I put up the mechanical and electrical noise, and then change that sound with this tape emulation, and this is what the flutter does. You can hear there. And then there's this reverb and EQ. And then what I did to get the tones is I added another EQ here. And I'll just stop that. So you can see there's got two boosts here and here. And if we go back to this is a table of frequencies. So it tells you every note and what frequency it is. So because the song is in G, I wanted to play a G note, which you can see here is 392, and an octave up, a G5, would be 783, 784, pretty much. So just find those two frequencies and put big boosts in them, and that just brought out those tones in the sound. So if we listen again, and without, and that's just an interesting way of making a drone without any sound at all. You could do any sort of white noise really, a field recording or whatever, and again that's just a fun way of doing it. So now I'll show you the Arp sound that I made. That sounds like this. That's quite an easy patch. It was just two sine waves, one pitch down, one octave, the other two, detuned a bit, and then this is the ADSR, and on that I just had a chorus, delay, phaser, and reverb. So without effects it sounds like this. So you can hear it kind of bounces around the stereo field a bit. So if we right click here and go to pan, you can see it's all sort of a bit random. And a good way to randomize that is just to select a whole bunch of notes and then get the mouse and just fucking go mad with it, left and right. And it will just add these seemingly random automations into it. You can do that with the velocity as well, and it's just a quick way of adding a load of variation really quickly into the panning or any of these controls. And you can see from the velocity that I've had something going on here. So I was trying to create like a shepherd's tone, and I'll just give you an example of what a successful one sounds like. Ugh, it's like a descent into hell. And I tried to achieve that by basically playing notes down the scale, starting at the top, all the way to the bottom. And the idea is the notes at the top are quiet, and then the further down you go, the louder they get. So you keep going down and down, and then the further down they go, they kind of fade out again. And the idea is that it just sounds like the sound is continuously falling. I thought it might be a cool idea to try in this art, but it didn't really work, but it still kind of sounds okay, so just decided to stick with it. Now looking at the other instruments, just got a piano here. And this is just playing kind of random notes in the scale here, just kind of going up an octave after a couple of bars. And that was just using this VST, which sounds quite nice as it is, and I'll make sure I'll put that in the description as well. And again, just a bunch of effects, some reverb, this is chopping up the sound again, some delay and EQ. There. And next is this guitar sound. So I'll just take the delay off first. And with the delay, And what was changing there was this diffusion knob. The more you have it up, the more the sound blends into more like a reverb kind of sound. And I basically had that starting at the middle of the track, and towards the end it came off so it sounded more like a just normal guitar. And that was just another way of blended that sound into the song. So it kind of starts off in the distance and gets closer and closer. And that's it for those sounds. And finally here, we've just got a bit of air in the form of this rain sample. So air is just like really high-end frequency, which you can get in some recordings through mics. I just like to use actual samples and return that up. It's just like a rain sound or something. Just adds like another texture into the track. And the last one is this bird song. And to bring that in, I just automated the reverb of the sound. So it starts off like quite far in the distance, and then gets closer and closer. So that's it for the sounds in the song. When it came to the structure, I basically repeated every bar of every instrument, as you can see, and then just slowly worked on bringing each different element in gradually, either through automation of volume or dry wet of reverb and delay or filtering, just so that each sound didn't sound the same all the way through. So although the track is seemingly pretty similar all the way through, there's not actually two bars that are the same. And generally for a lot of these tracks, that's the idea behind them, that everything within them is constantly morphing and adapting and changing throughout the song. So even if they're an hour long, if you want to listen to something like Thursday Afternoon, it's the perfect example. So thanks for sticking to the end, guys. As always, I'll be sure to leave a link in the description for the free project file, where you can get all the samples and all that sort of stuff, all the free VSTs that I used, as well as a copy of the song in its full if you want to listen to that. And if you have any requests on more music like this or other artists, then leave a comment in the description, and hopefully see you in the next one. Right, see ya, bye.